Hi, welcome to Spiritual Connection. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn. So I'm a shamanic practitioner, I'm an energy healer, and I'm a transformation coach. I'm also spiritual head of Transformation Center CT, which is based in Westport, Connecticut. At the center, we do a variety of workshops and trainings, and in addition to the individual coaching and healing sessions, we also offer a monthly satsang, which is Sanskrit for in the company of the truth. So that's just a really nice evening. It's really just an hour where we can talk a little bit and do some meditation, some chanting, and then have refreshments after. So anybody's welcome to come to that once a month. You can find it on our website. And just, you know, anything else you're looking for, just check it out, and we'd love to see you. So the Spiritual Connection show is all about connection. It's about connecting with each other as well as connecting more fully with our own spiritual selves. So as you know, I have a variety of guests, different guests every week, and through their stories and their journeys and what they do, you can learn a lot about what you need and more about your spiritual self. So I hope you'll join us another time. But thank you for coming tonight. And I want to welcome my guest tonight, Jennifer Peterson.
Hi.
Hi, Jennifer. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. Yeah, so I'm going to just read a little bit about you for our audience because they don't know anything about you. So, first of all, Jennifer is the owner of True Freedom Life Coaching. I love that title. I love that. As a coach, it just totally spoke to me, you know, like, yes, I wish I'd thought of that now. So she's a certified Equus Life and Business Coach. I can't wait to hear more about that, as well as a Reiki Master and Shamanic Reiki Practitioner. So you combine those. Okay, yeah. I want to hear a lot about that too. But before we do get into everything that you're up to, could you just share with us a little bit about your spiritual journey thus far?
I'd love to.
Okay, cool.
One of my fun things to talk about is my spiritual path. So it started out with more of a dogma, just going through and seeing where I fit in and where was my community. And when I first started to pay attention to that, I was in my early 20s, so it started very early for me. And I was looking to be married, and you know, when you're looking to be married, you look for dogma. Where is this going to be? Where is my church or my synagogue? And at the time, I couldn't come to an agreement with my fiance. And he didn't want to be my religion, and I didn't necessarily want to be his. So we went on, we got counseled, we learned all about different religions, and we learned about Christian religions. And I found it very fascinating that they all were very similar. They had very slight differences, but none of them really fit. And I couldn't quite put my finger on why until I moved to New York City, and I started to learn about Judaism, and I learned all about how the Jewish religion was centered around family, and that felt really, really beautiful and felt really true for me. But I realized, well, I kind of need a family to do that, and nobody I knew was Jewish, so I just I waited. And what it really did was help me deepen and look into what was really meaningful for me. And so when it was time for me to learn, you know, sort of get with that and understand that this was the time for me to move on, it was when I became pregnant. And I realized I wanted my daughter to be Jewish, but in order for her to be Jewish, I needed to be Jewish. So I waited until she was born, and then we converted together. And so that really started with what I was attracted to. There's a lot of Jewish people who were also spiritual people who were meditating and doing all kinds of things that were not necessarily about the religion. It was more about there was more to just going to a synagogue or going somewhere else. And when I was in my corporate career, I was really not enjoying it very much. And the only time I was looking back that I loved it was when I was on an account called IKEA. I don't know if you're familiar with the furniture company, and you would think, oh, that sounds interesting. Except that they were going down a path of getting a new tagline called the Life Improvement Store. And I had the idea to bring life coaches into IKEA stores, and I didn't know what a life coach was. I just kind of was learning about that. So we brought Martha Beck trained life coaches into the store, and I wanted them to be a success. So when I was at one of the events, I got coached, and I realized, oh my goodness. In 5 minutes, this woman literally helped me figure out that I was married to the wrong person. I wanted to have a baby, and it literally changed my life. So when I was in my corporate job and I was thinking back on that time, I was like, wow, I could be a life coach. And I looked up if Martha Beck does this, and she does, and I looked at the time and the money it took for that to actually happen, and I thought, well, that's not happening. So I shut my laptop because I just had a baby. How in the world did that happen? And 5 minutes later, I got a phone call from my HR department restructuring me out of the company. And they said, oh, and by the way, you applied for a sabbatical for 3 months, and we couldn't give you that, but we're going to give you this big check so that you can have the cash that was related to the sabbatical, because I had been there for 20 years. So I thought, whoa, okay, there is something more than just that synagogue.
That's a good signal, isn't it? That's amazing.
Yeah, and I floated home and I realized, whoa, you have to really pay attention to when you should be sad, but you're super happy. And that really was an interesting time for me. So, you know, going through that process, I started to really turn in and look at what was going on, and I learned how to meditate. And I was really trying to get connected to my intuition, but also really calm down my anxiety. I had a lot of anxiety throughout my life. So that piece, I think, is really what set me on my spiritual path, you know, going away from what I was learning from my dogma path and what was right there. So I feel like I had this real sense of community that I wanted to have in my life, and that's what I was attracted to from that piece. But then also the other piece of it, which was really getting in touch with my intuition. And it turned out that Martha Beck life coaching is all about getting in touch with your intuition. So then after I started to understand that, I actually only followed my intuition for the whole time I was in life coach training for about a year, and that's all I did. Was anytime I got little goosebumps or anything that was giving me that signal that something was right for me, I just tried it. So I followed what was fascinating to me. And one of those paths was Reiki. Every time I would get near a place that had Reiki or had any kind of energy healing, I could feel the energy sort of, I don't know, just on my skin, I could feel it. And one day I was walking by a crystal shop, and I was like, well, I thought it was the kind of crystal that you drink from, you know, the glass crystals, and it wasn't. It was those crystal stones. And I thought, oh, that's so interesting. After I let myself walk in because I had a baby, so well, I shouldn't be walking into crystal shops. I should be, you know, so I had someone watch the baby. I walked in and I was like, this is interesting. And I bought 2 crystals. They put me on a mailing list. And the very first email I got from them was Reiki level 1. And I noticed that it was the only day, you know, for many months that my partner was home, could watch our child, so I could go take the class. And I got the little goose flesh when I saw the email. I had never received Reiki. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't care. I just knew I was supposed to do it. So it was like, so that was one path. And then if I follow that, I could tell you the same thing happened when it was Reiki level 2. I didn't even know, I couldn't find someone that could give me level 2. And I had done a meditation. The meditation said, it was a so-hum. It was a so-hum, you just repeat the mantra. And what was coming to me was Reiki Master. And I thought, well, I'm only level 1, how can I be a Reiki Master? So I thought, okay, I'm gonna give it one more try. I'm gonna look for a Reiki professional in my area. And I found Gail Christie, who you may know. She's part of our group. And I was like, oh, she's 15 minutes down the road from me. So I went online, I signed up for her class. It was the only day that I was available in the summer. It was the only day my partner was available in the summer to watch our child, again, because those are very long trainings. And then I get a phone call from Gail, and she said, so I saw that you signed up for my class. How did you find it? I canceled it. And it was really interesting because somehow in the internet universe, I actually signed up for a class that didn't exist anymore. She had canceled it.
Wow.
So
Okay.
she said, well, I had one more person that was interested, so I'll call and see if she wants to do it, and if she does, I'll hold the class. So you can, and I was like, she'll hold the class.
Yes.
And
yes,
so
that was meant to be.
It was meant
That
to be.
Really perfect.
And then I realized
Just
you had
two
to
of you.
learn, you had to learn the symbols, which are complex Japanese symbols with many strokes, before the class. And I got them on my first try. And so that's when I noticed that when you're in flow, things happen with ease and peace, even when logically they shouldn't.
Yeah. Yeah, what a great lesson to learn that,
Yes.
That's wonderful.
So I feel like that's been sort of following my fascinations has really been my spiritual path.
Yeah, well, isn't that terrific? That's just so wonderful for other people to hear that. It's like what's possible. And you I mean, it feels to me that you created that.
Yes, well, once I realized what I was doing, I understood and I learned how to sort of decode it so that I could actually teach it to other people so that they could too follow their fascinations and create opportunities for themselves.
Right.
You have a desire and you can learn how to manifest it, which is beautiful.
And I guess maybe in a sense you co-created it.
I co-created
with the universe, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Huh, so that's perfect because it's a really great example of how it can work when, like you said, when you're in flow and you're just open. You were also very open. I mean, following your fascination is, you have to be open to do that, right? And
never more open than when I found horses.
Yeah, so how did that happen? When did you start that?
So you would think that I'm doing this as an Equus Life and Business Coach, that I had been with horses my whole life, but I haven't. It was only when I learned how to follow my intuition and I was becoming a life coach that I started to notice horses everywhere I went. And it was really bugging me. I was like, I don't understand. I will be in a restaurant and I'll see the horse picture. I will open up the newspaper, there'll be an article on horses. I will be driving my car and there'll be a person on horseback walking next to me on the road, and I'm like, there shouldn't be horses here. Why is this happening? So I was really...
You're wondering what the message was? Or
I noticed I'm a person that I see signs and synchronicities for myself. I see them for other people, and I can put them together, but this one I couldn't. Like, why is this happening? And I had done what I realize now is a shamanic journey, and I didn't know what that was when I was doing this particular visualization. But you go to a sacred place and something comes and meets you and gives you something, and you come back to where you started and you open up the thing. And so what came to me was a horse, and I was like, of course it's a horse, but why? And a horse came to me and she was absolutely beautiful. I knew it was a mare, and I even didn't know what a mare was at the time, but I knew it was female. And she had this beautiful star and snip. It was this, like, on her face, that's what horse markings, star kind of looks star-shaped, and a snip is a little line. And she gave me a brass ring. And I was like, okay. So I had, in my life coach training, I happened to manifest a person who was trained in how to work with people on their life purpose. That's who coached me. And she said, well, I think you're meant to be an Equus coach. And I started to cry. I didn't even know what it was, but I knew that whatever she was saying, it was true. And so when she's like, well, I can't really explain it, but just go be with horses and see what happens. Like, go find a horse. So I was like, I don't have a horse, I don't own a horse, I don't know how to care for horses, how could this be? So I went online and I looked up how to volunteer with horses. I thought perhaps I could find a volunteer opportunity.
Good place to start, right?
And I found Access Equestrian, which is an adaptive horseback riding program that helps, I'm gonna cry, helps children with special needs and other life challenges. And I called them, I filled out my application, they called me and they interviewed me and they said, well, we're moving our barn and we really need help. So I'll teach you whatever you want to know about horses if you come and help us. And I thought, whoa. That's
a good deal.
And it was super fast.
Right then,
Super fast. And what I realized was that I walk into the barn and there's a horse facing me and it looks exactly like the horse from my meditation.
Of course.
Of course it does. I know that now, but then I was like, what? That is weird. I'm not telling anyone. I'm going to keep that one to myself, but okay, hello. Nice to meet you. And it was a mare, and she was an Oldenburg mare, and she's beautiful, and her name is Audrey. Spoiler alert. She's real. And so I learned all there was to learn about horses. I got over my own fear of being around horses because they are quite large animals. I was able to be with them, learn that I really loved being near them. And at the same time, what was unfolding in my personal life was my daughter was diagnosed with ADHD and a receptive and expressive language disorder. So as I was learning about what kind of children work at this farm and are participating in this program, they actually are kids with ADHD is one of the things that they help with. And so I brought my daughter, so I felt like, oh, this is my path, but it's also a path for clearing a path for my daughter's healing. And she couldn't say the alphabet when she was like between 3 years old, 4 years old. When you start to learn the alphabet, she couldn't say it. She could get some of the letters, but not all of them. Pop her on a horse, she could say it perfectly.
Wow.
It was absolutely amazing. Like I get chills just thinking about
me too. Yeah.
About what that was about. And so what I learned, separate from my personal path, was that every time I was around horses, things happened with ease and peace. Opportunities would come up in my business. All of a sudden, I was not an Equus Life and Business Coach, but they were like, hey, why don't you teach mindfulness with the horse? So I thought, okay, that's a really good idea. So I started to work with some of the children that were there and teaching them mindfulness, working with the parents, working with other clients. So that was really exciting. And then it was time, once I felt that I had enough experience with the horse, I actually took the Equus Life Coaching program. And so I learned how to incorporate the tools that I learned in Martha Beck Life Coach training with the horse, and there happened to be a program that did specifically that. It was a person who was trained by Martha Beck, and she also was trained by Monty Roberts, and he's the horse whisperer. I don't know if you ever saw that movie. It's based on him.
Heard of it. Yeah, that's amazing.
So it was like, really?
Where's
of course
the
that's
program?
true.
Yeah, I mean, everything just happens for you, like, perfectly.
I know how to set a desire and
manifest
like
you said.
Yeah. And then it's interesting. The same thing happened with shamanism. It was like something cracked open in my life, and there was shamanism. And I had my first shamanic journey in October of 2018. And in my journey, I saw myself with horses and leading shamanic journeys with people out in nature. And on Sunday, this past Sunday, I was with horses, I was with a group of women, and I was leading them in a retreat with a shamanic journey, and then we bring them into the round pen, and we work and we do the Equus Coaching. So it is all...
That is so cool.
You may not know what it is that you want, but if you just follow your fascinations, it will go and it will be what it is that you desire, and you didn't even know you desired it until it's like, whoa, that happened.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
So basically you just took everything that you're fascinated with, you learned it, and now you put it all together.
It was just little pieces, little slivers. I love this. I like energy. I was fascinated with how your body, how your mind and your thoughts could affect your body, and that's all about energy, and how it can strengthen if you have a positive thought, your body's really strong, and if you have negative thoughts, your body's really weak, or if you lie to yourself, your body's really weak. So it started there, and then I found Reiki, and I realized, it's all related. And then
healing.
Equus Coaching is all energy healing. It's literally the horse is picking up your energy. It knows when you are up in your thoughts with limiting beliefs, it doesn't want to be near you. When you are in your truth, you were talking earlier before about being closer to the truth. The minute you get connected to what's true for you, the horse will come right in and connect, and it will put its nose right at your heart to show you that is true for your heart. And we get all up in our heads with limiting beliefs and with the busyness of life, and we don't really connect to our bodies lots of times. There are days when I'm like, ooh, I'm totally not really present in my body, and I just get myself back and connected. But some people don't even know they're supposed to. So I find that once people start to connect there, they can see it. They can see the shift in the energy with the horse. So I say that the horse is a 1,000-pound metaphor for the universe, because anything that you desire, the universe wants to give you. It's just, are you ready to receive it? Are you open to receiving it? Is there a limiting belief that's blocking you from receiving it? Are you just unclear about what you want and you don't know what you want to receive? And so the horse will actually show you with its nonverbal, non-judgmental biofeedback what's going on with their desires. And if you have a decision you have 2 things you want to choose from. I had a client, she was choosing between going to a Ivy League school to go to nursing, or she was going to go to what she called the backup school. And she was looking at a nursing program. And she happened to be a rocket scientist, and she was changing careers. And she said her belief, which you think would be a good belief, was that rocket scientists go to Ivy League schools. That's just what they do. And so we talked about that in front of the horse. And the horse wanted nothing to do with her when she was talking about the Ivy League school. When she was talking about the backup school, she talked about how supportive the faculty, she saw people she knew and her friends were there, and she was all excited about it. Horse came right up to her and just connected with her heart, and she was so surprised because she thought, no, I'm going to the Ivy League school, and if I don't get in, then I go to this school. And it was a really interesting path for her, because what she realized was that it was really about that supportive community. That was actually more important to her. Having people that supported her, having her friends there, was actually more important than the Ivy League degree that she would have gotten. And that was really only important to her family. It wasn't as important to her. So when we started talking about that, the horse did this other thing that it does. It blocks me from the person that I'm coaching, stands right in between us, because the horse is synchronizing with the person and wants it and pretends like they're a part of the herd, or doesn't pretend, it's behaving like they're part of the herd. So because I'm asking a question the person's too vulnerable to go towards, I can see that because because the horse is blocking.
So protecting,
blocking from knowing, and it's showing me, okay, let's check in here.
Maybe she's not ready for it.
She might not be ready for it. It just might be something she's not even realizing. And as I do this work more and more, I realize the horse will step in front even when the person's not conscious that they're not ready to talk about it. Some people are like, oh yeah, sure, let's talk about that. And then a few minutes later, they're like, ooh, but the horse has already stepped, has already done the blocking. So they can pick things up that I like to call it the blind spot, like the thing you're not quite knowing what it is, or it's still in shadow. So they help you. They do very good shadow work.
So it's more of a gradual process, because it seems to me that asking these what could be empowering questions, even if they're not ready, it helps them become more clear.
Yes.
But the horse doesn't want that to happen, or I'm not too clear. It just take more time to do it.
So I think what the horse is showing is that the person's not quite ready, and I should check in and say, hey, are you okay proceeding?
So just slow down a little bit.
So I think the horse, for me, one of the pieces of my path before I became an Equus coach was I perhaps should become a client, and maybe I should experience what it is like to be a client.
Idea,
So I went to someone out in California, because that's primarily where this work can be done. There's a lot of people in California that do it. And so I went out there, and I probably spent about 3 hours with this coach and a horse. And I learned more about myself in 3 hours and a coach about myself than I did in probably a decade of therapy across my life, because it was so clear, all the things that were going on, everything that you can talk and talk and talk and talk about your stuff and take lots of notes, but when you experience in real life and you feel in your body what it feels like, you'll never forget it. So I really believe that this is as fast as you'd like it to be, because it only takes just that shift to see what's going on for you to take that and be outside of the round pen. So my job, I feel like, is to make sure that my clients do not have to carry a horse with them everywhere they go, that they understand the lessons, they feel them in their body, and they can use those lessons outside when they're not with the horse.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense, because I agree with you. It's really the experiential aspect of it that is the most powerful.
Yes.
And it sticks with us. Yeah, so that's just amazing how well that works. Seriously.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what you focus on right now, because and you have a farm? We didn't talk about that.
Yes, so my farm is in Mount Kisco, New York. It's Thornbrook Farm is where I'm working right now. It actually happens to be where Access Equestrian is as well. So I'm using their horses now. I was at a different farm before, but the universe brought me right back to where I started.
How about that?
Yeah, it's a gorgeous farm. It's very peaceful, beautiful nature. So I'm incorporating shamanism now with my Equus Coaching. So I'm hosting retreats and doing all kinds of really beautiful things that are both spiritual and working with the horse and horse energy.
Huh. That's really cool. So it's mainly, well, you have the private client side and then you have the retreats as well.
Yes.
And you do everything there. Mm-hmm. What's the name of the farm?
Thornbrook Farm.
Thornbrook?
Mm-hmm.
Thornbrook Farm. I'm going to have to check it out. So people can just access all of this information on your website, though.
Mm-hmm. Yes,
yeah.
on True Freedom.
Yeah, so that's the True Freedom Coaching. So you still, I mean, that name fits with everything. You don't need to adjust it for all your other, it's like an umbrella for all your modalities, really.
Well, it's interesting because I think there's this wanting and a knowing. I feel like when I heard that name, that word, those two words were put together. Martha Beck actually coached me. I manifested that. That's not an easy thing to do in life coach training because there's many of us that go through her training. And I really desired her to coach me on something. And so she was coaching me on my fake relationship with my father, which is really interesting because all the horse is doing now is checking for authenticity and where you're authentic in your relationships. And I was not authentic in that particular relationship. And she said, after she did my whole coaching session, she said, "Jen, what I want for you is true freedom." And I was like, whoa, and those words just stayed with me. And so when it was time to make my business, because I didn't start out being an Equus coach, I started out just with just regular old life coaching.
Which is pretty darn good too.
I was like, wow, that's what I want for everyone else. Anybody who works with me, I want them to have true freedom. And so that's what I need my business.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to me that's perfect because I had the same reaction from coaching. When I did my training, the first thing, it was like freedom. You know, that's what people need and want, and everybody should experience that. Yeah, but true freedom, it gives that nuance because it's not freedom in the sense that some people think of it as like, well, I can go do whatever I want. You know, that kind of freedom, and that's not it.
It's not the same.
No.
Yes.
So I love the way that came together. Yeah, that's awesome. So what is next for you right now? Is there anything you want to share in that regard?
Yes, so I'm actually on my way with shamanism. As I was mentioning before, I started with October of 2018, so I'm new to shamanism, although I've always believed that I was a shaman, just from what I've learned about it, and was fascinated with that, and didn't realize how accessible it was. And when I came across Shamanic Reiki Worldwide and the Center for Health and Healing, I actually, that's where I'm in training. And so what I'm doing is I'm in training to be a master teacher with shamanism and shamanic Reiki. And what I've realized, because most of the time when you're doing this, you're actually indoors, you're in the center, and you're journeying, and you're doing all these beautiful things. I realized, well, I can do all of that in nature, and I have a farm, and I have horses, and so I realized, whoa, I'm actually going to be facilitating attunements to Reiki level 1 and 2 using horses and horse energy. And doing it outside in nature. So it should be a wonderful experience. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
Yeah, that's a perfect fit.
It is.
A great opportunity.
Yep. And the other thing I noticed, at least in my own path, is that entrepreneurship can be lonely. And even though I have horses and I have farms and I have community, it's really nice to partner with other entrepreneurs to come up with things. So I've been partnering with other entrepreneurs in my retreats, and Matthew Broad, who you also know, we're going to be facilitating. The topic is Journey to Community and how community feels in your life. So we'll have some spots for Equus Coaching while you're supported by the sound of drums. And so the people that'll be drumming, they'll be drumming with horses, and the people that are in the round pen will be being coached with the horses.
That's awesome.
So I'm excited about that.
I look forward to all of this.
Thank you.
It sounds like you've got a lot coming up.
So much. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah. Well, I'll look forward to hearing more about it. I think we're going to have to start to wrap up now.
Of course.
But it always goes by so fast, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. But thank you so much for coming on the show, and just to get to know you a little bit better. Excuse me. So this was a great opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you to our audience for joining us tonight on this episode of Spiritual Connection. Hope to see you on the next one. I'm your host, Katie Augustyn, signing off. Good night and blessings. Thank you.